Hey, you guys ever use the clipper blades that are sort of like the texturizing blades where you they cut, don't cut, cut, don't cut. I've never used them, but I've seen them at hair shows where they'll have the clipper blade and it looks just like a thinning shear. There's little blocked out parts on it where it doesn't cut, so you can go in there and cut just some and not everything, sort of like a thinning shear. So we are going live on YouTube right now, so I've got to run, guys. This is fun. You guys should download the Discord app if you don't already have it, and then we'll bring you on to a YouTube live one week, since you're both free at this time on a Thursday. Thank you, Ali, Brittany. See you guys later.
It'll be fun. Yep. All right. What's up, Profitable Stylists? That is our introduction to today. We're just live streaming. We're just Thursday morning is turning into a non-stop extravaganza of live streaming.
Non-stop
and it's
live.
been fun, right? And we've been talking about different kinds of cutting tools and what is the benefit, what is the drawback, and what are the different types of blades that we've seen. You know, because there's a lot of videos out there. There's a lot of things that are for show. There's a lot of things we've done on stage. And it gets really fun. When you go to the salon and you see, you know, your stylist pull out, some stylists will have 15, 20 different shears. And you look at that and you say, like, really, you have that many? Like, do you really use all of those? And they all have a purpose. Every single one of them have a purpose to a certain degree. The most basic ones that everybody, or I shouldn't say the basic, the most common ones is the better way to say it, that everybody's used to seeing, is going to be your regular straight shears, your straight blade shears, and then texturizing shears or thinning shears as they, you know, originally were referred to as, and then razor blades. Those are going to be the three most common ones. But then there are a different array of other types of cutting tools that we're going to go over and talk about because it's fun. So let's start with the common ones first. With your...
You want me to join you?
Nah. with you. Okay, so here's a question for you. This will segue you in here. Okay. with your regular straight shears, do you prefer the smaller 4.5, 5-inch shears, or do you prefer the longer 6, 7-inch shears?
The short answer, short. But
okay.
I can pretty much work. You know, I think that comes with experience, obviously. With experience, I've learned to work with just about anything. You know, whoops, forgot my clippers at home. I'm going to be doing a look-alike clipper cut with scissors or shears or whatever you want to call them right now. And then vice versa. I've got my scissors at home. I'm going to borrow somebody's, and they're going to be like 6 and 8 inches long. I'm going to make it work. Or I'm going to borrow some little girl, little handed, little 3/4 hands. Like, what?
Right, your thumb can't even get through the
guard.
So
often I've got to take those little rubber things out because I've got some big fingers, and so I can maybe get the tip of my fingers in there, you know, like ding, ding. So I can make just about anything work. But I started off with a Centrix shear. This is not them. This is just some way off brand. It even says ice on them. Ice stainless Pakistan. This is some brand that somebody sent us and said, you guys should sell our shears. Check them out. And so they send us free stuff. And I'm like, no, it just sounds
so loud.
And it's funny how you get used to good stuff. You can hear the ring of the metal, like the high pitch. It's just not right. And then the blade is serrated. You can feel like it's a serrated blade so that it doesn't have to stay sharp as long. It doesn't have to be as sharp because the grooves are going to grab the hair in between, and they're real tight. Remember Ali was talking about like dropping them.
Yeah.
They're just real loose here, but then here they're so tight. But anyway, it's close to the size shear I used to like. I liked a little bit shorter. It's what I started with, and I think that's part of the challenge is you get used to what you start with. And it's kind of like your first love, you know, it's like that first thing, that first bicycle. It's just like that first thing you use. And then it's hard to get used to another tool. And then as the curved scissors, texturizing scissors, longer, shorter, concaved blade, you know, I think my eccentrics were concave. My mom bought them for me when I was in school and I liked them so much. I got a second pair because I was doing hair in a private room upstairs for hair replacement, and then downstairs I needed a pair in both areas. So I got used to a regular size blade that took me about cut to get through a section, you know? So my very first thought was longer. I could cut it all at one time
I can
instead
cut
of
all at
having
one
to
time. Yeah.
cut. But that wasn't really any better because I would cut the finger at the same time because I wasn't used to it and it was really long. So I literally just got used to I don't even know what the length, you know, I think thought I had a measuring tape up here. What would be a real common short blade length? Is it 4 or 5 inches?
At the 4.5 and 5 inches are the most common shorter blade shears, and then 6-7 inches are the most common longer blade shear that people are used to. Yeah.
Yeah, so mine was probably 4 to 5 inch is my favorite size. But I don't mind doing a little bit longer. Like this she hair came out with this at one point, you know, and it's a little everything's quieter, it's smoother. It's got the rubber in here to kind of stop the blade. It's definitely a concave blade. You can't even hear it, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it was the best brand out there. It's just she came out with a brand and wanted us to try them, and we did. So I've got them laying around in here, and they work fine.
Yeah, they're decent blades because they had a
Decent.
texturizing, a version of a texturizing shear like that as well too, and I use it. I still use it to this day.
But I would say my eccentrics were a tiny bit shorter, maybe a half inch shorter. So I don't.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm used these, and you know what I really got mostly used to was I don't have them here, but most of the students around here went to a Paul Mitchell school, and the scissors that they gave them when they were in school, so many of them come to work here and then just leave them when they quit doing hair, or they buy newer, nicer, expensive shears and just they don't care about their Paul Mitchells. They leave them laying around. I pick them up. I'm like, I like these. They don't want them back. I'd get them sharpened when the guy come in, and I love the Paul Mitchell kit shears, scissors, whatever.
Okay.
Listen, what are we supposed to call them?
Well, I was just about to ask you. You want to start this debate? Are they shears or are they scissors?
You know what so Europeans can't stand that we call them shears because that's what they cut sheep with out there. They shear sheep. And so in America, we think it's fancy. It doesn't matter what you call them. They're both the same thing. But in this country,
you're starting it now. The comment section is going to explode.
But in this country, I say scissors so often and people go, "Oh, you mean your shears?" And I'm like, whatever. If you want to sound fancy, call them your shears. You know, oh my shears. I don't want to call them scissors because that's what you cut. What you use for when you're sewing. Those are the household scissors. It's just a word to make your scissors sound fancy. But if you're in another country, you're just going to sound stupid. So that's why I usually say your scissors or your shears. I usually use both words because I don't know what crowd I'm talking
We're starting to get the comments coming in.
They're
called
ready?
Scissors. Yep. Shears are for sheep.
Who said that?
Brennan's saying scissors. RJ saying shears
so
are for sheep.
From me. Right.
Because they learned from you, right?
Most Americans are going to say they're shears because they want that fancy word.
Cutting apparatus.
Oh my God.
And I have to use my low voice to sound all proper and everything, right?
Right. So the fact is, are you a cutter? Are you a cutter? So it brings me back to thinking about salons that separated these things. You go to school to learn it all, and they would say, oh, you just get a little bit of knowledge in all these little departments. And then the truth behind the scenes was the salon owners were trying to not lose clients, actually, because they would lose hairdressers way too often. They wanted to keep the clients. So they thought, you know what we'll do is we'll promote the hairdresser. They're really good in color. We'll make them specialize in color, and this one will specialize in cutting. And so then you got the one client that gets colored by one, cut by another, styled by another, and then when the hairdresser left, the colorist, well, they're still connected to the cutter and the styler and the shampooer. So it was easier to keep the client. That was the truth behind the scenes. But at the same time, it launched a whole new world of people who bragged about, I'm a colorist, you know, or
I'm a specialist.
I'm specializing in cutting. And so I was a cutter. And they didn't call themselves cutters. I mean, there were other words. I just it means so many things. What?
We're getting a scientific answer over here.
What? Tell me. Tell me.
The difference between scissors and shears is length and design of the handles. Scissors are smaller than 10-inch and with
Yes.
two identical handles, while shears are 10 inches or longer. I don't know what crazy website, he Googled
Yeah.
The
So
Google said that, and that's it.
somebody copy and pasted that from a Google search or something, or
That's an
you.
RJ copy paste.
Okay. So yeah, that's interesting, and I'm
But
sure
he
that's
did
some.
not use the keyword hairdresser shears. He just probably put in, random scissors versus shears.
Right. That's just another opinion of what's the right word to call them.
Yeah,
And
we don't agree with you, sir.
I personally don't care in that
I know.
area. I don't care what they're called
Okay.
because that's
Do
what I
you?
was going to go into next. So first we've got people who specialize in one or the other. So now we're kind of talking about the cutting specialization, whether you do it all or you just do cutting. It doesn't matter what you cut the hair with, in my opinion. I mean, you can be at a party or vacate home for the family holidays or whatever, and somebody goes, "Can you cut my hair?" And you're like, I didn't bring any tools," and they're like, "Oh, we have scissors here." Do you
Those are
now?
the yeah, yeah. They come with the
Do you?
big sewing kit shear.
Yeah, they come in with the hedge trimmers. It's like you just push these two big handles together, and everything I put between it gets cut. Yeah. So I got to tell you, I don't really like trying to cut hair with household scissors. That's awkward because the holes are like you put all your whole hand
Your
in
whole
one
hand
hole.
is in there.
And I mean, we do use all our fingers, so I get it. But even then, I have said, okay, I don't mind spending $50. Let's go to a local beauty supply, usually Sally's, and see what they've got and buy a little 20, 30, $40 kit. You know what? They opened this kit up. It had a cutting cape, a terrible pair of scissors. That might be where those came from. A pair of thinning shears, a comb. I'm like, well, that's just about everything I
And
need to
it's
cut
the
a lady's hair.
fattest, thickest plastic comb that is just hot garbage. I hate those combs so much. You
Yeah.
try to lay them down on the head. You're trying to like do a shear over comb to scissor over comb to blend a little, and it's like, oh man, they're
Right.
just
So
terrible.
who still uses this comb from school? Just a
That's
regular
no,
old.
hey man, that's a common. Do you know why that's still commonly used so much? Because look on that, flip it over to the other side. You've got the measurement on there too, the
Oh yeah,
inches.
let me
Because
see.
what is that?
What
A
is
six
that?
inch 6-inch comb,
Well, you call it a 6-inch comb, but it's really
or is it
seven
8?
inches.
7.
Well,
Okay.
look, from here to there is one, then two, three, four, five. It says six on it, so most people think it's 6 inches, but that one more inch is seven. So it's a 7-inch comb. But
Yeah,
most people call it a 6-inch comb because you only see
it's a
six
really
on it.
common. It's a really commonly used. I think that's that length and the 10-inch comb or the 11-inch comb, whatever now we're calling it, is those two sizes are the most commonly used sizes.
Well, when you're first learning how to cut hair, you can't control much hair in your hands. You feel like you have two left hands, and so this combs just all the hair you can stand to almost control. So when you're trying to comb some hair, and then when you get to where you can just really control some hair, you want that comb a little bigger, and you want the part that grabs hair easily all the way through. So you end up wanting these wide teeth on the whole comb. I want it consistent. If I want a fine tooth comb, I want my whole comb to be fine. I'm going to use the whole comb on the hair. But I usually want these more bigger, wider teeth to get more hair in the comb easier. So I want the comb bigger this way and longer this way so I can really
Yeah,
grab
because
a.
the smaller side is more for blending. You're sitting there
Right.
trying to correct the angles or soften angles and stuff like that.
If I want the fine teeth, I'm going to usually need the tail along with it. So I'm usually using a tail comb, and this is John's favorite comb. Got
Yeah, it
to
is.
have,
He steals every single one of mine every single time we get together.
I just found a bag of like 30 or 40 of
I
them, and
need a couple.
I thought about like mailing him a few.
No, not him. Me. He has all my few.
Oh my. So So getting the haircut is all that really matters. And that's why you've got these crazy videos where people are cutting with fire and swords. We probably should have loaded up a couple of those videos. That would have been fun. But I mean, the first weird thing that people did, I guess, was I say weird. It's not weird. It was before the scissors. My mom never learned how to cut hair in school with scissors or shears. It was all razor. Did you know
razors?
that?
Razors, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Well, I mean, I love seeing the old barbershops, and they got that strap of leather coming off the chair, and they would sit, because that was an open blade. That was a straight blade. They didn't even have safety, the safety blades yet.
And it was a bigger, thicker piece of metal, so it lasted longer. Sanitation was not a big deal way back then, so they were using the same razor for months and months at a time. You just kept sharpening up that edge on the leather. And so razors, all types of razors, like this was one of my favorite at first because it was real thick metal, really heavy duty. I just talked about this on Facebook. I don't even know if this brand is around anymore. It's called Terminix.
Termix?
Termix. Yeah, you're right. Termix. I think Terminix gets rid of termites.
Yeah.
Over a little more, you said?
There you go. Right there. Right there. There you go.
So anyway, what I loved about this thing is it's got to be over 20. It might be close to 30 years old. But you pull this little spring-loaded part, and this opens up, and this falls off if you're not careful. It's just got a regular, old-fashioned, the original razor blade. Got to be careful. I mean, they're so thin and flimsy, but so sharp. So I could just stop at any drugstore and pick those up and slip it on there and just boom, just pop it on. It's ready. I love the weight of it, and so I just had this thing in my desk drawer forever. I hardly cut hair much anymore, so it's not really. It doesn't really matter what tools I have. And usually, my 10-year-old Carson, when I cut his hair every month or two, I come into the salon. I usually just use Brennan's tools. He'll know. Yeah. He'll know that I cut his hair because he's got red hair, and I'll leave it on the floor all around the station.
But those razors nowadays are very commonly used for shaving. So that's I mean, I shave every day, so I go through those blades all the time.
So that's kind of coming back, right? With those Dollar Shave things and everything. That's the
West Coast Shaving, Dollar Shave Club, all those different things out there.
They're using the original single blade instead of the. Because I tell you what, when I shave once or twice a week, I like I think I use Chic Quattro.
The disposable.
I like the 4 and 5, and it's not. It is. You say disposable. The handle's not, but the end is.
The end is right.
I put a new tip on there every a few weeks or whatever because I'm only using it once or twice a week. But I like. They got these little silver bands over the top of it that kind of keep it from digging a little too deep. And I don't know. I like I guess it's got a little soap strip on there or something. So 4 or 5 blades. Some people use those in the salon, the disposables. I've been traveling before, and I like to try to check out different barber experiences, get a shave. I've only had a couple in my life, but kind of see what they do. And some of them will just use a disposable pack of Bic razors because it's in the experience. It's not the tool necessarily. And so they're still using warm something, lathering up on your face. But then they're just using a disposable because in this world, we really can't and shouldn't be reusing too many things. I know we are reusing a lot of tools, but people try to act like if it can be thrown away and reused, do it. But some people are sanitizing their brushes in between each client. Some people are not. Some people have multiple sets of tools to use. New set like a dentist, open them up out of saran wrap for that client. That's a lot of nice service. But let's stay on the cutting tools for just a minute. So I really think it doesn't matter if you cut with a sword or fire or a guillotine. All of that can be...
You've never done it then, because it totally matters. There's a total difference when you cut with all those different kinds. Those are specialty tools. Those are specialty tools. Okay.
Talk to me about it.
A sword, and if, depending on the length of the sword that you use,
Mhm.
it's going to be very top heavy, and it's all in how hard you got to swing it down to be able to get a clean cut. Otherwise, it will literally bounce off the section of hair and come right back at you. It's going to hurt the model or the client. I don't know. That's why you see, like, in a lot of these videos, they're always laying them down, and they're laying their hair across some kind of a tabletop because they want to just hit straight down on the tabletop and make a cut like that. When you're using like hedge
And the
trimmers,
sword's curved, so it's not going to cut through all the hair when you hit that table either, huh?
not when you're hitting the table. That's why, like, when we're on stage, and you'll see they always have the poor assistant. Look, golf clap to all the assistants out there that trusted us, that held on to that hair. We didn't care much about the model because they already signed off the release form, so it didn't matter no more.
And you needed the assistant again.
But you need the assistant again, and you're telling that assistant, listen to me, love, just
Don't
hold
move.
this, hold it really taut. The tighter you pull on the model's hair, the better it's going to be for you. And just believe me when I tell you, don't move. Just close your eyes if you have to. Just don't move. And then you got to get on the other side of the stage, and you got to take a running start because you need that momentum. You need that leverage. So when you come down on that section, and man, I tell you,
without a hard surface behind it, it'll go through it.
Bernard, I would sit there in the hotel room the night before, and I'm just sharpening it. And then we're backstage getting ready to go on stage, and I'm still sharpening it. And it's like right before we get on stage, I'm telling one of the other assistants, just keep sharpening this thing. They're like, dude, you look like a psychopath. Like, all you've been doing is sharpening this thing for 24 hours.
Does it just cut straight through, or do you have to get like a slice?
You gotta catch the one side of it and then just come all the way through. Yeah, you really gotta come through it, and it looks insane on stage. It looks cool as hell on stage,
Right?
But really, all you're doing is taking a straight blade razor and just cutting hair. It's a really oversized big one. That's why, like, when you see these people doing with the axes, the axe is got that curved blade, or even the flat axe. It's still a razor cut. You know,
Right.
It's really cool, but it's a razor cut. I think it's harder to cut.
You think?
I think the TH, right? Think.
I think.
I think I can.
Oh, I say so many words wrong. I love it when I catch other people. Go ahead.
It's harder with a flame than it is with an oversized blade. I much prefer oversized blades than flames.
Okay. I've never used either.
Because candles, torches, like you know those acetylene blow torches?
Yeah.
Those things get so hot that you don't realize sometimes, like, you're trying to hit the flame, like the torch flame, through the section, but you don't realize the heat expands so heavy that it starts. So, like, you cut the section, but it singes.
3-inch wide
path,
right? On both sides.
And you're like, you cut that, and then you're looking over there, you're going, whoops, I'm gonna have to go back and thinning shear that one a little bit. You know? Whereas a candle, you're sitting there going, okay, I'm close. Now I got to get closer. And I'm right on top of the damn thing. It's like, okay. It's like using a lighter. You know, you're just sitting there going, and you're sitting there like, come on, melt through it already. Come on now.
And the truth is, hairdressers are most likely never going to do this in a salon. So it's just fun platform work, just for entertainment purposes.
The flaming cuts have been coming back in barbering. So a lot of the shortcut to clean, you know, like how they line people up real good. So they've been sitting there. Yeah. You clean all that hair off the forehead, or, you know, when you do a really short cut, sometimes there's a couple of little flyaways or little antennas.
And what are they getting them with? A lighter?
Yep. Burn them right off. Then you got nice and smooth all the way across.
No, thank you.
Oh, it's fascinating, man.
I feel like this.
It's really, really. They're trying to duck.
Well, I know I've gotten my my brows singed a little, my arm hairs, like with the barbecue pit, or trying to start a fire, or getting a little too close to the flame. I've done some welding, and that those little balls of flame will get you. But
do you like burn hair smell?
No. You?
No, I can't smell,
No.
so it don't bother me none. I don't
Oh,
know.
that's right.
I've completely forgotten what it smells like.
Yeah, it's gross. It's
It's
terrible.
gross.
They say, now I don't think that most people smell this stuff enough for it to matter, but I had heard that it's a carcinogenic, causes cancer. Surgeons who are using cauterizing guns in surgery all
Okay.
day and they're burning flesh to stop bleeding, they're talking about how they had to start wearing masks because it could cause cancer, smelling, burning skin, and burning hair. I think everything causes cancer, by the way, in my opinion, from what I've heard. So
Wait,
I do like some weird
listening to
smells,
me
but
talk to you is causing you cancer?
I think so. A little. Just like a mild form. But
Mild.
I know we did the Facebook Live right before this, so I think I forgot to show some of the tools. I think I showed you the scissor I kind of like, but my shears. But then what? Here's another word that I do think matters because of what the word suggests. What do you call these?
Right there, right there. That's well, nowadays it's a texturizing shear. It used to be
Right.
well, not used to be. It still is a thinning shear.
Right. So Ali said basically of the amount of teeth, and he's got a good point. Maybe if you're talking about one that's with got a lot of teeth on it, more of a thinning shear as opposed to a tool like this with bigger texturizing. They all texturize. They all are changing. If you're leaving some hair and taking some hair, that's point cutting is texture cutting.
Mm-hmm.
It's more than just a blunt cut. So I think it's safer just to call them texturizing shears because we're changing the look and the shape. And when you call them thinning shears, there's, especially on a woman, even guys these days, not too many people want their hair thinner. So using the word thinning shears, I think, is just a little scary for the client, especially if they see them, or if I don't know why, some people feel like they got to tell the client every step. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my thinning shears. You don't have to tell them everything you're doing. Just get the job done, get it right. Say, don't you just love it? And charge them. Say goodbye. Schedule the next appointment, sell them some retail, and say goodbye. But I don't know. I'm a little old school. I didn't get caught up in the fancy, expensive name brand tools. I just had my mom bought those centric scissors for me. She called them shears back then, used them forever. And one time I got caught up at a hair show and bought these things. I wish I had them. But you know how, I mean, I got them downstairs, but you know how they would have this hook part here and then the circle was way over here. So my hand, I guess it was more ergonomically correct, or I could put my finger on the hook part that was here. So either one would open and close the tool. And it was just so big that when I collapsed them to cut, because do you do this when you comb hair?
I personally do.
You flip them around because
I
you
do.
are used to working on stage and you got to have that fancy dramatics, right? Well, I've just always
No, because I don't want to chop my client or stab my client in the face when
and
I'm
I always
combing their hair.
I always use a shorter shear so it didn't matter. Look, you calling them shears now. I always use a shorter one so it didn't matter because I went from combing to switching hands, and I just felt like it was faster and easier to go from here, and because I'm here and I do this, and then boom, it's in there, and I cut, and all that.
Okay.
You get a little momentum in there to drop them, to do this thing, and then. I mean, I know I look awkward because I'm not used to it, and I got to sling them around. So to me, it was just a quick, and then grab that comb to comb. And yeah, I get it. The scissors are close to the face when you're combing, so you're worried you want them sticking out the backside. But I've seen people combing and still stabbing people with what's going on that backside. So
I mean, you got to have a plan when you're sectioning and when you're combing and everything. It's all part of the training. At least you hope people are going through proper training to learn what they're doing.
well, you know how some that tang, is that what they call this? A tang?
If you say so, I have no idea. I just always that's the finger guard, right? That's like the finger rest.
I think people call it a tang. There's removable tangs, and then there's the ones that just stay on there.
Yeah, the
You
stationary
ever hook
ones.
you ever hook anybody really good in the ear or the eye with that? Oh yeah, like I'm combing, come
Oh yeah.
around, and then and just like, whoo, this one's so strong to get a little extra, little.
That's called
Oh
Botox. That was the original form of Botox.
yeah,
Have you ever used a shear that has the or scissor that has the swivel thumb
swivel
on it?
thumb. Well, I taught so many classes, and we went through a time where they just for speed and efficiency. I didn't travel with tools. They would mail my stuff, and I didn't bring cutting tools. Everybody had scissors and thinning shears, whatever. Everybody had their tools for the class, and so I would just pick up somebody's tools to kind of show a little demo of what. Because I didn't do a full cut, I would just do some tips and tricks and how to add to your cutting skills for blending hair extensions or hair replacement. So I was always picking up somebody else's tools, which was fun. And yes, a lot of swivel thumbs out there. I don't like them. Do you like them?
It's not that I
If you
like
get
them. It's
if you
it's
get
that
used to it, I can
well,
see.
I am not an ambi switcher, so I can't say the word. Ambidextrous. I can't say the word, so I just say ambi switcher, and everybody understands me when I'm in a class. How,
Ambidextrous.
how you say it?
Ambidextrous.
Yeah, no, there's no way. I can't. So because I'm strong right-handed, when I have to come across to cut the left side, especially when we're doing face framing, I always have to swing around and then pull my arm over, and that swivel thumb
What
does
does
make it more
ambidextrous
comfortable.
what's ambidextrous have to do with it? I mean, I don't cut hair with my left hand.
No, what I'm saying is, like, if you're standing in front of somebody and you pull the one side over and then you go in and you cut this way, but now you got to
Mm-hmm.
pull the opposite side across, and now you got to cut it this way. And so that swivel thumb makes it easier because for some
Mm,
people it's an awkward body
yeah.
movement to like flip their whole body over because they're not used to flipping their hand upside down and cutting. Everybody's used to cutting straight across with their wrist trying to keep it straight. So that swivel thumb helps alleviate some of that awkwardness, and it helps them keep their wrist straighter so they're not having to like yank their whole arm over
Mm.
to get around
So
it.
I noticed when Brittany was here to film the hair replacement training videos a few weeks ago, which I'm editing right now. They just showed up. Let's see if I can get around this microphone. I noticed most people are cutting, the correct ring finger in there, this here, and they're cutting across like this. Of course, you're supposed to lay the scissor down and push against there, but let's not even get into that right now. But I noticed she was cutting some bangs. Let's see if you can follow this for a minute. Couldn't fit. I was watching real close. She turned them over and she was cutting like this. She was doing some cutting, and I thought,
Oh, she turned them upside down. Okay, yeah.
her thumb is in the other side. So basically, if you just take it out like this and fold them over in your hand and stick your thumb, I was watching her and I thought, that looks weird, but easy and probably because look, if I'm going to get this angle with the blade, I've got to do this,
Right, right,
or
right.
I've got it way under. So I guess it was like, take your thumb out, put the blade where it needs to be, and just stick your thumb in the other side. And I don't feel like I have as much control. I'm hitting that mic, but I thought that's fascinating. It's
So what
instead of
what
having
you're
a swivel thumb, she's just swiveling her thumb.
so for the audience to truly appreciate what you're saying there, what we are trained to do, the reason why we put our ring finger through one of the guards or through one of the holes, and then you rest your pinky on the, what did you call that thing?
Bang.
The hang tang,
Bang.
and then you rest your middle finger and your index finger on the blade. It allows you to keep one of the blades completely stationary. So all you're really doing is moving your thumb, and that's what's really doing all the cutting. So when you're trying to get into different areas, sometimes it's hard. You have to turn your hand in really different weird directions to get in there, and then your thumb is banging against the forehead. So by flipping that over, she's now freeing up her thumb to be able to open and close freely and be able to get in there and do that bang
This
section.
tool has a little notch there.
Pretty
They don't
cool.
all. This has a little notch so that you have a finger rest here and a finger rest here,
Yeah,
and it kind
better,
of
more finger rest. Yeah.
gives you more. So it kind of encourages you to have all your fingers on the blade as you cut. So you're using all of your fingers, whereas most people that do it wrong stick this finger or this finger in there and start to cut, and then you lost the control of all these other fingers. Some people just use the two, and it's so much easier to use all your fingers
Now,
also.
do you ever use kitchen scissors or other scissors to do something outside of hair cutting? Like when
And
you're
then
working outside and stuff,
and you hold them different than all your friends.
and you hold it right, and all your friends are looking at you like, "What are you doing? Why are you putting your ring finger in there?"
I'm a professional.
I'm a professional. Right? It's so funny.
These hands are licensed.
Yeah, you're right. That's exactly, and insured too, right? So
No,
yeah,
but
have you ever used a combination scissor thinning shear where
I
they
have
have both
not.
blades? Have you seen it? What I'm talking about?
I have seen them, and it's a lot like if you had the same size and you were holding them both at the same time. Although I can't, and it would cut. Actually, be the other way around, right? Because you would want to. No, this would be it. You're cutting the length
No, that
off
would be
on
it. The length off,
texturizing,
and you'd be texturizing simultaneously.
texturizing right underneath. And these aren't the same length, so it doesn't work. But right, I have you used them? These are
Yeah,
the same.
there's a double, and then there's even I've used a double that's what they refer to as a double. They even have a triple. So they have two different sizes of the texturizing shears. Like they have a 30 teeth and then I don't know, a 10 teeth or a 7 teeth.
That's cool.
And then the straight blade on it as well too. I've never used that one personally, but I have seen one that used it. Oh, you have one of those razors. That's cool.
So She Hair had sent us a bunch of these not too long ago, and I can't say I'm fond of this type because most of them have a comb on this side, a razor comb. So you're combing the hair, and I don't know, however you get your fingers in there, and you just get it spun around so that you can now razor and then spin it and comb and then spin it and razor. But I mess up and I spin it and razor when I'm supposed to be comb, and oh shoot, I went a little too short there. So I don't want to razor and a comb together, but some of my stylists love this thing because it's got both on it. I don't know. They love no new tools. It looks cool, feels cool, but no razor comb for me. Too
Back
much.
in the day, so I was talking about this on the other live. Back in the day, they had a triangular razor. It had three different blades.
You guys promoted that thing, huh? Were you the? I remember you had a guy who on stage really loved that thing. Who was that?
No, that was a different razor. That was a razor where you can change it had one handle, but you can change the head to make it different types of razor blades. So they had one was a straight blade, one was a safety blade, one was a texturizing blade. It was two texturizing blades and two cutting blades. That's what it was. It was four different kinds. And you would change the head on it, but the handle was still the same handle.
So tell me about this triangle thing. What
The
did it have?
triangular one, so just like how you had in the middle, it was the little ring. So it's like nowadays you call them fidget spinner. So it had that little fidget spinner ring in the middle, and it was a blade on all three sides, and you would just spin it around. So you had a fine blade, like a fine safety blade, a wider safety blade, and then a wider safety blade. So it kind of depended on how much hair you were trying to take off and how much you were trying to blend. Like if you were trying to create a blunt weight line, or were you trying to do slide cutting, or were you trying to create layering real fast? So that was a fun little thing, especially on stage, because you'd just be sitting there, have your finger in there, and you'd just be spinning it around, and it was just blade after blade, you know?
So the thing that I found fascinating is growing up in a house as a kid, my mom cut hair. She cut our hair with a scissors most of the time, most of our life. And then later she tells me, I didn't even learn this in school. So I found that interesting that barbers used razors. That was one of the big divides between the barber and the cosmetologist in this country. The barbers used razors, the cosmetologists used scissors, and they were kind of at each other's throats about it. They put it in the books like, hey, cosmetologists cannot use razors, they cannot shave faces. We don't that don't want them to do that. We want to have our separation. They can't call themselves a barber shop. So barbers, basically the words they protected was barber for barber shop, razors, and face shaves, from what I understand. Not every state's the same, but in most cases. And cosmetology or cosmetologists, the field, protected the word beauty for beauty salon, because every cosmetologist wants to own a beauty parlor. So who knew that was going to go out of style? Barbers are still in style. So beauty for beauty salon. We protected, that's about it. No,
the bigger argument was the blade, the straight blade versus the safety blade. So when finally the cosmetologists, got their win, or however you want to call it, where they were allowed to start using razors, it really went into effect that you can only use a razor that had a guard on it.
Guard.
And you had to have,
and barbers could use open razors.
Barbers were able to just use the open razor side of it. They didn't need to have this little goofy safety guard on it. So and it really made a difference of how close, or how clean or how close you were able to get.
Right. And then when you held hair, let's see if I can find a little section here. I found it fascinating that my mom only learned with a razor in school. So at some point she had to just learn how to start cutting with scissors and figure it out. So I think that we all get in the field and then have to figure some things out, or learn with the trends through our experience. Because when you hold hair like this, it's hard to razor it, it's all just kind of loose. And so you're generally holding tension on the hair and cutting below, or putting above and putting your thumb on there, and forcing it through the razor. So I found it neat to watch her through the years kind of change from the razor to the scissors. And then the scissors, it was a quick, you could have all that looseness on there and still just chop through, and it pretty much would cut it no matter how loose it was. So a lot of people would razor under their fingers where they were already holding tension, or have to put your thumb on there. And then what were some of the big differences if you were doing the same haircut with a razor or the same haircut with scissors? What would you find the difference in the outcomes would be?
Because of the way you're holding the tension in the hair, when you're using a scissor, you're able to create a very clean, blunt line, because it's one motion of closing the.
You say that like it's good. There's an argument there.
No, it's not necessarily that it's good or it's bad. It's not right or wrong. It depends on the finished result. Because you got to also look at it, right? In the 80s and the 90s.
But listen, that's what made Sassoon so big, I believe.
That's what I was just about to say. That blunt, zero elevation, bob haircut, the most
didn't come around
haircut.
Till the scissor.
Wasn't right. You weren't able to create that line, that weight line, until you started using scissors. Whereas when you're using razors, you'd have a more natural or a more softer effect of, like, when hair grows out, it doesn't look so perfectly laying across the head or across the body. It looks more softer, and it looks more split end, and it looks more feathered, or however you want to refer to it as.
I like that you use split end in a good way there, but right.
I mean, because with hair extensions, it's the same thing too. You don't want a perfectly blunt weight line. You need a shattered end, or look, I'm just coming up with all kinds of terms that we use.
Listen, I'm just so glad you just said that, because now you're showing a little bit of age like I did. We were at that hair show, and I turned to Holly and I said, so let's go ahead and cut it now. And she says in front of a whole crowd, we already cut it, Bernard. Do you want us to cut it again? Like, yes, sir, boss man, we'll cut, but we already did. And I look and I'm thinking, it's so freaking
Where are you leaning? Where are you going right now? Bring the microphone to you.
I'm leaning towards the microphone. I thought I was leaning towards the mic. And I'm looking across the room at mannequin heads that I might go grab and bring over here. But do I look stupid leaning like that? So listen, Holly.
You're just going off camera, slowly going off camera.
Oh,
like, where are you going?
I've got a big camera. I mean, I see a lot more in the space, and you forgot how you squeeze me down on YouTube. So, so listen, Holly says we already cut it. She's like whispering on the microphone. Everybody can hear. Like, I'm already called out. I'm a little embarrassed, but hey, that's life. I'm fine with that. So that's when I admitted to the crowd. Here is a new trend that I am just starting to get. The people without hair extensions want their hair to look like they got blunt cut hair extensions because a more blunt end is coming back in style, which is great for people putting extensions in and can't cut them very well because or blend them very well because you don't need to right now. Most people want their hair to look like they have extensions, chopped off real blunt, done. They don't want it real blended and textured at the ends. But you're right. For many years, we had to do that. So to me, it was kind of interesting to watch haircutting come full circle. And I guess it's just going to keep going in a circle. So cosmetologists, I say full circle, we actually are at a time where we can think back, not too far back, where the only people that were licensed, and not even licensed, but the only people that cut hair were men in barbershops. Women did not get their hair cut in this century at one point. They didn't go into a professional place and get their hair cut. They cut each other's hair because most girls wore their hair really long. Men went into barbershops, and cosmetologists came around to the barber, mostly because they wanted to get their hair cut. The barbers wouldn't touch a woman's hair. They were a little scared to do it. They didn't know what to do with short hair. So of course, Sassoon's taken these, not just Sassoon, but a lot of people like him are taking all these old-fashioned razor techniques and all these soft blended edges, and now marketing and making popular a very precise, very straight, even if it was at an angle, but a very clean scissor cut. So it was so clean you couldn't get that with a razor. And it was something that propelled the cosmetologist to kind of go above the barber for a minute. You know, it's like, hey, barbers were everything. Cosmetologists was a new thing. Oh, now cosmetologists can do things barbers can't do. Look, so I think it was almost like a back and forth kind of thing for a long time. And it's interesting now that through my lifetime, I'm cutting mostly with scissors, shears, and then trying to break up those ends to look more natural because you're right, natural hair is uneven on the ends. But let's just really quickly say why that happens. Hair is really uneven on the ends because every little hair on the head grows at a different rate. Some faster, some slower. Some are shedding, some are regrowing in, which means they're starting off really short. So they're these shorter lengths, and they're all different lengths throughout the style. So you've got all these different lengths, and a lot of people would say, I like my haircut better after a week or two because it would break up those ends and look a little more uneven on the ends. So we started taking texturizing tools or razors to break up those ends. And then you've got the clients that would come in and say, I want my haircut with a razor instead. And so when you got a lot of experience at some point, like I finally did at some point, I said, I understand what you want, but it's going to be better and faster if I cut. I'm going to get, I know what you want with a razor. You want more of a blended ends. Show me some pictures. Show me where you like it. I'm going to cut it with scissors and then come back and texturize the ends with thinning shears, and it'll give a razor look. So that was fun for me to realize, like, I don't have to do it your way, but I do need to get it to a point that you like. I got to understand the style you're looking for. And so I think it's really cool to watch cutting go from blended to more precise to blended to a little more precise these days again. People are wanting a more solid, blunted look again. Not necessarily in the short hair, but definitely in the long lengths right now.
I agree. I completely agree. I think the public service announcement that I'd like to make is, can you please clean your shears in between haircuts?
Oh,
can you
that's
please
a good point.
wipe your scissors in between haircuts? And I don't care if it's a texturizing shear, a thinning shear, a short blade, a long blade, swivel blade, whatever it is, right? Even your razors too. Wipe them and oil them. Oil them at the beginning of the day and oil them overnight at the end of the day. You don't have to oil them throughout the day, but at least in the morning and at night, you know? And in between, wipe them down. Wipe the blades down, because when you're closing the blade and there's little slivers of hairs in there, it's creating an additional resistance when that blade is closing. You're not getting a clean line, and you're having to do a secondary repetition to cut again, and then to cut again, and then to cut again. it's putting wear and tear on your wrist, and it's putting wear and tear on the blade. You're going to have
Yep.
to get your shears or your scissors sharpened more often because of that.
Ali on the Facebook live we just did before this did a good little analogy. I teach the same thing in the class. Now you got to realize when you're looking at your scissors, one side might be heavier than the other because of the tang and it being a little bit longer. But when you take a pair of scissors, like you just said, in between is going to get you're cutting wet hair usually. Maybe there's a styling aid in there, maybe some products, maybe you sprayed with a water bottle, so now you got products and water. It's going to cake up in between the blades and slow them down. But if nothing else, just the water on the hair is slowly wearing the oil out and pulling the oil out of your lubrication on your scissors or shears, so they're not going to open and close as smoothly. So you're right. Clean them. I say put them in the shampoo bowl, put a squirt of soap on there, shampoo, and then hose them off. Now, most of your oil is going to come out too, but at least the pressure will push the hair out from in between. Then when you oil your blades, this is one of the tricks I like to say. The part that your hand touches should have no oil on it. There's no reason to be slipping and sliding over here. But from that first finger forward, you could almost dip them in oil. Not that you should, but everything down here could be oiled. But the main thing is between the blades, on top of this one, on top where they two come together. But when I say between them, there's also a rod that goes through the center there that the blade is kind of pivoting on. So if you could drop a dot right there and open and close a little, let it get in between them, open and close. And I say once you put it on there, let's go back a tiny bit. You shampooed them, you rinsed them off with hot water, blow dry them. I say towel dry them and then blow the water from between.
Sure all the water is off.
Get all the water off, then do all the oiling, move them around a little bit, and then use a towel and wipe off all the excess oil, because the blade will soak up and get oil stuck between the blades that you can't wipe off. And then after you think you got them clean and oiled is when you hold the blades straight up and down, hold one up and let them drop. And you can do it with either one. And when it drops, if it drops and goes to almost completely closed, they're not tight enough. It should be somewhere in the middle, depending on how tight you like your scissor. And usually 1 or 2 clicks will change it if it's pretty close. And then you let it, that's about, I'll loosen these a bunch just to kind of show on here. That's about where they should be. And of course, this is a lighter side, so it's not going to close as much. But somewhere in the middle shows that you got them tight enough to actually cut hair. And Ali had a good point. He said sometimes when you're doing this, your hair might fold over because the blades are dirty.
Or it's too tight.
Yeah,
or it's
dirty, too loose.
And then you're having to squeeze harder, which is putting more pressure on the blades, which is dulling them out faster all the way around. It's just not good. Forget about,
if you're squeezing harder, also, these are going to get too big.
Yeah.
I don't really have muscles, but you're gonna get these muscles in your arms.
You're going to have the nice Popeye muscle, but then you're also going to have the carpal tunnel surgery to show off for it too, you know?
Right. You'll have the scars.
So that's everything I got.
Me too. Bye.
All right. Thank you for watching, everybody. Let us know so I want to know a couple of things. What is your preference? Shorter shears or longer? Are they shears or are they scissors? Forget about science and facts.
Right.
And then,
your opinion.
Right. And how often do you clean them, and how often do you oil them? And how often do you sharpen them as well? Thanks for watching, everybody. Talk to you next week.